Hello everybody. Welcome back for another video. Hope you're all great. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all absolutely fantastic. Don't forget to follow me on social media. There are links in the description below. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. Pretty news full packed day. A lot of stuff happening. A lot of people making promises. I think it feels like, at least to me, like it feels like we're getting down to the wire. Being in June, I think there are a lot of expectations for prices, for projects, for things that are supposed to be happening. And this is where I think a little portion of the news is actually coming from. This one is constantly reiterated, rehatched, re-brought back up in the news. If you haven't seen, or you might have mathematically managed to miss a large amount of news regarding Charles Hoskinson, who is the creator of Cardano, around November of last year. We do not know why, but it's usually pretty easy to figure out. His tone changed very quickly on a number of coins. He was quite adamant that Cardano was the best chain and the thing that was going to take everyone else into the future. He was quoted saying many times, Cardano is the only chain you should be paying attention to. November rolled around, and he started talking very positively about Bitcoin and XRP nearly exclusively. He still talks nicely about his own coin, but those two began to pop up all the time, any time that Cardano was involved. And this is where I think the actual doubling down is beginning to come from. Charles Hoskinson is predicting that Bitcoin is going to 250,000 or $500,000 per coin amid growing DeFi adoption. This is something we've heard for a while. A lot of people tend to often put a certain narrative on top of Bitcoin, explaining why Bitcoin's price is going to hit this number because of this thing. I said before in another video, logic, you know what, like when I talk about like, hey, Bitcoin's price should be a lot higher, it's not just wishful thinking. It's actually also complete logic and also based off of what everyone's saying. If we were going to get to $250,000 with the Bitcoin ETFs, well, that means we are going to $250,000. If people say that Bitcoin's going to have $250,000 in value per coin because of DeFi, that tells me that Bitcoin can easily go to $500,000, because if the other narrative is true and Bitcoin goes to 250, well, gosh darn it, then the other one is also going to bring Bitcoin up higher. If Bitcoin's going to go higher because of this thing that this company is doing, then Bitcoin goes to 750. If Bitcoin's going to go to $1 million just because of corporate interests, like we've been hearing, not DeFi, not ETFs, not ABC, not 1, 2, 3, just because of MicroStrategy and so buying it, then therefore, you know, logically, Bitcoin should then be a lot higher in price. This one has to do with DeFi, decentralized finance. There's some kind of an out of nowhere fascination where people are kind of falling over themselves to find a way to get Bitcoin to do something else. This was first said by Michael Saylor last summer, 2024, where he called Bitcoin boring. You can find the article, and people were like, why is it boring? He's like, because all it does is go up in value. And I assumed as an investor that was the most important part. But apparently for the bigwigs, they want Bitcoin to be able to make extra money. So this is where the idea of having wrapped Bitcoin comes from. and why everyone is trying to have some type of a cross-chain interoperability on their chain with Bitcoin, so that Bitcoin could then be staked or wrapped onto their chain and then provide some kind of a yield or a reward for doing so. This in turn allows your chain, Cardano, to become more valuable because you have Bitcoin locked in it. If you see 35, 75, 125,000 Bitcoin locked into a chain, that chain becomes more valuable because it's also holding portions of one of the largest assets on the planet. It says Cardano showcases Bitcoin interoperability with live on-chain DeFi demo via the Lace wallet. We saw something else 5 days ago. I don't remember. Was it a crypto exchange? I don't remember. Somebody else was talking about Bitcoin DeFi and how it's going to change the world, etc., etc. But they're also doing a like beta testing right now for it. Some of them are launching through independent wallets and other things like that. Usually it's not a learning curve, but it's more of a I don't want to have to download something else kind of curve. So I do believe still that a lot of these protocols and DeFi things and yield on Bitcoin, on XRP, etc., are only going to become big and mainstream once crypto exchanges are actually offering them. There are also plans underway to integrate XRP into Cardano's DeFi ecosystem, boosting cross-chain utility. One of my ideas basically is, I think Cardano will be around for a while. As I stated last year, I think we're near the final stretch where your coin has to do something. It has to be adopted. It has to be liked. People have to be building on top of it. So as we currently are seeing an enormous amount of attention being paid to Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, and I will begrudgingly put Solana in the fourth place. There's some attention being paid to it. I think Cardano kind of got left in the background, irrespective of how many people might be building on top of it or its current usage. It's not in the news as much as the other four. So I think a clever way to make sure that your chain survives and also thrives, dare I say, is to put two of the other top coins on your platform. If you tell people, hey, move your Bitcoin over here, move the value, you can deal with it, and you can make a guaranteed 3, 4, 5, 6% return, people are going to start staking their Bitcoin on top of Cardano. If you tell people, hey, we're also printing and minting the Ripple stablecoin on our chain, it gives Cardano extra value. Put your XRP onto Cardano and you can also get a yield as well. People are going to do it. So this is where I think the smart moves end up coming into play. He realized, listen, no one else is talking about it. Let's do this. And people are going to use it. It's a very well-known coin. Cardano founder Charles Hoskinson just made a bold call that has Bitcoin enthusiasts buzzing. At the recent Bitcoin conference, he predicted Bitcoin could hit anywhere between $250,000 to $500,000 in the coming years, but that wasn't all. I think that's also quite common. I think that's kind of like a Mike Novogratz $10,000 Bitcoin thing back in 2017. We got a lot of calls for a $5,000 to $10,000 Bitcoin, and then he went on TV and said, hey, $10,000 Bitcoin, then it went to 20,000, and then you end up looking like a genius. We know that Bitcoin's going to 250,000. So it's just a matter of like when it happens, but then people who said that it was going to, they'll be able to say, see, I knew it was going to happen, and it's like, no, we all knew. Hoskinson also shared Cardano's latest moves in decentralized finance, including plans to integrate XRP into its growing ecosystem. His long-term vision, ? A $10 trillion Bitcoin market backed by new infrastructure, smart contract layers, and real-world DeFi use cases that expand well beyond Bitcoin alone. There's some kind of a really weird obsession with people wanting Bitcoin to do more. I get it, but it's also like it's totally fine if it just kind of sits there and gains value as the US dollar plummets. People want Bitcoin to have layer 2s, and people are talking about layer 3s, which is crazy because we really haven't even kind of figured out layer 2s correctly yet. People already want this magical layer 3 thing going on. People want on-chain smart contract DeFi capability for Bitcoin. They also want it on layer 2 and on the future layer 3s. People want other chains and other this, and it's like, okay, sure, why not? Speaking during a session hosted by Input Output Global, Hoskinson said the path to a six-figure Bitcoin is being driven by increasing inflows and the shift towards Bitcoin as a store of value that now also taps into the power of DeFi. He looked back at Bitcoin's early days, where small-scale mining and peer-to-peer transfers were the norm, contrasting them with today's large mining operations and evolving network needs. While Bitcoin has held on to its original principles, its limitations are becoming more visible today. No, the problem is, as you can tell when they're not a Bitcoin maximalist, because Bitcoin maximalists don't care about having to expand Bitcoin. This is why we had Bitcoin Cash, because people decided to A, fork Bitcoin for their own greed, and B, had this idea that Bitcoin has to do more. The idea from original Bitcoin maximalists is that Bitcoin is just fine. Everyone on the planet, you know, like all the companies who are buying like $3 billion, $17 billion, $60 billion worth of Bitcoin, they understand that Bitcoin can only do 3 transactions per second. If you want faster transactions, you do it on the Lightning Network. If you want completely secure transactions, you do them on chain. That's part of the idea of Bitcoin being digital gold, is that eventually Bitcoin's price will go so high that it basically would or could simply be used as a store of value. But then the narrative of as a payment system comes in, as Bitcoin needs NFTs, Bitcoin needs ICOs on top of it, Bitcoin needs this. We need to do like if you didn't see earlier this year, people were putting video games on top of it. Like everything doesn't have to be everything. It's okay, like that the US dollar like doesn't fly. Like you can't put it into like, you know, like little paper airplane that like it flies to the other side of the world. It's fine. It's okay that it's just a currency that is essentially used also as a store of value. Bitcoin doesn't have to do everything, but people think that it has to do everything. So yeah, super long story short, because the article basically keeps on going. It's this idea that in the future or relatively soon, all of these chains and that is going to happen. And as I've stated many other times for many other projects and many other events, just do it. We don't necessarily need to hear that things are going to happen. Just do it. So I think if we just had upgrades or updates as to when these things were actually going to drop, like we get it. We get that they want to have, you know, cross-chain interoperability with Bitcoin, and they want to do this with XRP and the Ripple stablecoin. It's just do it. People will use it as long as the returns are stable enough, and as long as the DeFi isn't shady and scammy. People will use it. Just do it. That's the Cardano, Bitcoin, XRP, and Hoskinson saying Bitcoin's going to $500,000, but I think we all knew that one already. And yeah, let's move on. Also, just do it. Just what are you waiting for? I assume you can figure out where this one is going. I don't know why. I would imagine that behind the scenes, a lot of early investors or people maybe from a year or two ago are probably having conversations with the people from Ethereum. This is how I imagine it. None of this is maybe not real, but this is what I'm imagining. I saw someone post on Twitter And it was really funny because people were like, you're missing something. They posted a photo of Bitcoin's price 1 year ago compared to today. Like, it's gone up by $90,000. They showed Ethereum's price from 1 year ago to today. It's down by like $1,500. So, it's lower. And then they showed Solana's price a year ago from today. And I think it is down by $28 or something or other like that. And then people were like, hey, you're missing XRP because XRP actually like also skyrocketed. But people pretend that XRP is not a thing and this is how people go broke. But besides the point, yeah, so Ethereum, for whatever the reason might be, on chain looks spectacular. Tons of new interest, tons of new buying. The amount of Ether, if you missed it, the amount of Ether on crypto exchanges has not been this low since, I believe, 2015. That was the last time we got the news. Months after this project launched. That's how low we are compared, the amount that's on crypto exchange. Like, there's barely anything left. The amount of people staking it keeps going up. The amount of institutional interest. We just heard that there is a company, I think it's backed by Joseph Lubin, who's one of the co-creators of Ethereum, announced that they're starting a company that is creating an Ethereum reserve. Right. And they're going to be purchasing $500 million worth of Ether for the beginning of their reserves. Awesome. So, logically, on paper, everything looks great. But for whatever the reason might be, Ethereum's price isn't going up. So it's one of two things. It's either interest is fading, which we know that it's not because we can see interest on chain rising, and that then investors are going to the people from Ether and they're like, you have to do something. You have to upgrade to make this thing better so that there is more usage so the price goes a lot higher. Or they're manipulating the living fudge out of this project to make sure that the price stays low so that they can accumulate all of it, because the only way to create new Ether is by having Ether. I believe it's a mixture of the three. I think there's, someone's making a soup. They've poured ingredients from all three parts into it because the price doesn't make a lot of sense. On top of that, this year, and I assume this comes from the pressure from the investors, there's been a lot of upgrade news, more than usual. We used to get something, I want to say it was every quarter, maybe every 2 to 3 months, maybe, where we heard this is going to happen, it'll launch in June. By the time we get to June, they go, actually, all right, August. And then it gets to August, we get it September 1st. That was usually the 1 year shebang kind of thing. This year, for some reason, every week there's 2 updates. We're going to do this. We're going to have this. This is going to happen. We're going to do this. This is going to be upgraded. This is going to do that. And it's once again, just do it. What are you trying to make waves for? Just announce that you're going to do it and then do it. We don't need 38 news stories about what you might potentially think about one day. Okay. So this one, once again, is another layer on top of the already wobbly cake, because just do it. Vitalik Buterin has announced that Ethereum's Layer 1, the main chain, is expected to scale approximately tenfold within the next year. Yes, my friends, we have another prediction, announcement, news story that something is going to be happening to this chain, and apparently it's within the next year. So one can only assume by the 1st of June, 2026, we will have this, followed by a pause before its subsequent next major upgrade, I'm sure. At the recently concluded ETH Global Prague, Ethereum co-founder Vitalik Buterin revealed that the Layer 1 blockchain is set to undergo a significant upgrade over the next year. Responding to questions about Ethereum's scalability goals, he stated, and I quote, "We should scale L1 about 10x over the next year and a bit," end quote. And here's the tweet for it right here. So, cool. Just do it. I really do assume that this is pressure coming from the actual investors. And I mean across the board. Retail to actual institution. Simply because I think when you give too many promises about a coin or a chain, people eventually start to notice that like something's afoot or amiss, actually. It's similar to Tron and many other coins years ago. They would announce weekly, that there was a new upgrade, a new update, or a new partnership or something, and they all ended up falling apart or weren't actually true. Not to mention, for those of you who are new here and you don't know, Tron's white paper. So every time a coin comes out, like they get like a white paper explaining what the point and premise of the coin is. People looked at people looked at Tron's white paper, and it was just copy and pasted from I think 4 other coins. So it was just like plagiarized from the get-go. But cool. Awesome. So Vitalik has said within a year. The issue being is that we've heard that before. We heard back in 2016 that in 2017 we would have staking. We got that in 2022? And then we heard in 2018 that by 2020 we would get to Ethereum 3.0. Ethereum 3.0 is meant to be, I understand, like the near completion of it, and we're supposed to have 1 million transactions per second. So I assume 2033 is when we'll probably have something closely resembling Ethereum 3.0. Awesome. Cool. Can't wait for exactly a year from now when we're going over the fact that this upgrade hasn't happened and we're sitting around 12 transactions per second. That'll be fun. That's the Ethereum should scale to about 10x over the course of the next year news. Fantastic. Wonderful. Can't wait. Okie dokie. Let's move on. Also I guess everyone's allowed. Las Vegas-based modular home manufacturer. This is crazy. A modular home manufacturer called Boxable, Boxabl, has announced that it has added Bitcoin to its official treasury reserve strategy. Bit of a tongue twister. Yes, another company has jumped on board. The last 4 have been kind of weird. Like one of them was a restaurant. This one's a modular home. What was the other one? Was it like a puzzle company? I don't remember. Like I said, everyone's allowed. Yes. We're getting this news over and over that a new company every single day is announcing their foray into the cryptocurrency space and that they're going to be acquiring Bitcoin as part of a reserve strategy of some sort. The company says it will purchase Bitcoin with a portion of its assets, following in the footsteps of, it says, Tesla, Coinbase, MicroStrategy, and Michael Saylor. I guess they just chose the biggest names. Company officials noted that cash reserves in US dollars could lose value due to inflation. No, they're not could, they're going to. That's what exactly inflation is. So, and that Bitcoin offers long-term value gaining potential. The fact that Bitcoin is as accessible as cash in terms of liquidity and gains value over time was an important factor in the company's strategic move. Boxable embraces the use of cryptocurrencies not only in investment, but also in sales. Customers who want to buy, I assume, a modular home can also pay with crypto as well. That's what companies tend to do as an easier way for them to accumulate cryptocurrencies. You can say, we're going to use our cash to buy crypto, but you know what also works? If somebody buys a home from you in Bitcoin or XRP or Litecoin or Ethereum, guess what? You essentially just got it for free. I mean, air quotes, for free. Do you remember that thing? We were talking about this last year. There was an old, it's not ancient. There was a TV show years ago called $1 Million Listing. And there's one episode that sticks out in everyone's mind. where this guy was selling a home. Oh gosh, what was it? I think the home was like $3 million or something. And the guy at the time, I think, offered him, 5,000 or 10,000 Bitcoin. And the seller was like, "You have got to be kidding me. I don't want digital money. I want real whole cash." Someone came back to that last year and they were like, "Yeah, I'm sure that person is like kicking themselves." Like imagine you having 10,000 Bitcoin because somebody offered it to you. And for reference as well, that home now, that apartment went from $3 million to $12 million. It's a nice 4x, but it did not go up from, what was it? I forgot what the value of Bitcoin was, but it was nowhere near what it is now, especially if you're talking about Bitcoin going to $1 million+ in the future. So yeah, we have another company called Boxable, I'm going to say Boxable, who has announced their official Bitcoin treasury strategy reserve, as everyone else has over the last couple of weeks and days. No information on exactly how much they purchased. A lot of companies who have been announcing this have initially been purchasing 1 million, 3 million, 14 million. So those numbers usually don't get as much limelight as MicroStrategy purchasing 1.3 billion. But never forget, every time that a company purchases 400 Bitcoin, that's 400 more millionaires and billionaires who will never own an entire coin. If you own 0.28, don't forget, you are part of the 1% of Bitcoin holders, and there are and will be millionaires and billionaires who will never, ever, ever be able to hold more than you. Don't you ever forget that. I do hope that you've all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.